All right, we are back here on Titans Talk, talking about the Titans' victory over the Bears on Sunday, 27-21 in Chicago. They led it 27-7 a minute into the fourth quarter, but had to hold on for dear life down the stretch. Secondary porous, showing some holes, and today the Titans tried to remedy that to some degree by releasing starting cornerback Parrish Cox, and they promote Kalen Reed to the active roster. Your thoughts on that move, plus the game yesterday, and the month ahead of us now. It is December football. It is essentially playoff football time for the Titans because they need to win games. If they win games, they have a shot to make the playoffs for the first time since 2008. 737-7767 is the number. We go back to the phones now with John. John, hello.
Yes, sir. Well, my question is, well, it ain't no question. I'm just want people to know I'm proud of my team. I don't care if they win another game this year. I'm proud of my team. And because you look back, 4 or 5 years ago, and look where they're at now.
Heck, look last year.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And our quarterback and Walker get together, hey, they're just amazing. I think the quarterback's getting better every time he hits the field. And, I just want people to know, look where they was at last year and look at them now. So that's something to be proud of if they don't never win another game.
No question. They've taken a huge stride, and we appreciate the call, John. The Titans have taken a massive leap this year. But now it's weird because when you take that leap, you automatically increase the expectations. And so the Titans are looking now to actually win the division, get into the playoffs. Those are the things that have just been so far out of reach around here in recent seasons that it's kind of hard to believe they're in the spot. It's great that they're in the spot, and that certainly shows the progress. But now that you're in that spot, you want to take advantage of it. I can tell you this, when you walk around St. Thomas Sports Park, or you talk to these guys, they're not satisfied with the progress. They don't believe that there's some schedule that says, all right, well, we were the worst team in football last year and had the #1 overall pick. This year, getting to 5 or 6 wins, that's a step, and that'll be good. And then next year, maybe we can flirt with the playoff berth or get into the playoffs, and then we become a contender. Their mindset is, hey, we're there. It's December. Let's go play and win. Win our way in. If we get into the playoffs, then we'll see what happens. And that's the mindset you have to take. When you have the opportunity in front of you, go do it. Because as much as I think the pieces are in place here for the future and that they've got a lot to build on off of this year, you never know. You never know with injuries. You never know what's next. And so when you're in position, you can't be satisfied. You can never say, okay, well, we took a huge step this year, and next year's our real chance for the playoffs. So they've got a shot now. So they're going to go all in December. But absolutely right. The Titans have done so much this year to put the last couple of years behind them that when you walk into that building now, it feels different. It feels like a place that has an identity. It feels like a team that believes they can win any Sunday they walk out there. They haven't won every Sunday, but they believe they can win every Sunday. And that's a huge testament to the culture change around St. Thomas Sports Park and the Titans. And I think you saw it again yesterday. We've seen it a bunch with them getting behind big and the resiliency that they've shown to come back in those games and at least make them games, or like in the Detroit game where they figured out how to win in the fourth quarter. That's a testament to the leadership on this team, the new culture they have. And yesterday, too. I mean, things were going south in a hurry in the fourth quarter of that game. It looked like they were going to lose in the final minute. They get a break with the drop pass, but then they make 3 plays in a row. 2nd down, 3rd down, 4th down, and goal. The Titans made plays, made it difficult, and ultimately got a stop. And like I said earlier, it wasn't pretty, but they don't ask how. They just ask how many or if. And yesterday the Titans answered if with yes. We got it done. And they're now 6-6. They're in position to do something special in December if they can take their game to another level. Back to the phones we go. Eddie, good evening. You're next up here on Titans Talk.
Hey, I'd like to, I called you back earlier in the year and talked to you about we'd win 6 or 7 games, and you agreed with me, I believe.
Probably so. My preseason prediction was 6-10 for this team. I thought they might stretch it to 7-9, but I certainly thought this was a 6 or a 7 win team.
Yeah, I think that I'm choked up here a little bit. I think that the people should. Yesterday, the first part of that game, even though there's a couple boo-boos, they played hard. They played very, very hard.
Sure.
20 couldn't hit nothing, couldn't run nobody down. You could see him pulling away from him at a mile a minute. He just couldn't keep up. He was not very good at all. But everybody else played hard except for losing their patience every now and then. But they ought to have some kind of, and they ought to give the Titans for the last half of every game where they get ahead 3 or 4 touchdowns. They ought to have a polygraph test, and they ought to put 2 people, pull any 2 out of that audience, no matter who it is, off the team, each week, and give them a polygraph test. And if they don't pass the test, if they show their line, they ought to be fined. Now, I don't know how legal.
What do you want to ask? Hey, Eddie, hold on just a second. What do you want to ask him on the polygraph test?
You want to ask him if he played hard or he didn't play hard. He went to bed. That's what you want to ask him. If you could do that legally, you could root out the people who don't play hard and make them start playing hard, the ones that didn't want to have to leave but end up playing hard. You call a couple of them out each week, just check them at random, and then you'd find out that they'd play hard for the last part of that game. And I've seen Peyton Manning beat us by 3 touchdowns and 5 points. And he did that in the last quarter. We were running the ball, and Peyton knows when you start running the ball, he could, back in those days, he could put you down.
Yep. Eddie, I appreciate the call. I'm going to have to disagree with you a little bit, though. I don't think it's an effort issue with the Titans. This isn't a team that ever takes a playoff. They work hard. They're into it. But I think what you have is you have a real issue of talent in the secondary. It's just not a very good unit. And when you're up by as much as they're up, the only chance the Bears have to get back into the game is to throw it around the yard. And so that's what they're going to do. And it was very discouraging to see the fact that they had so much success, but that's the way they get back in the game. That's it. And the Titans couldn't stop it yesterday. I don't think it was a effort issue, though. It's just guys not being able to make plays, maybe not being good enough to make plays. I think what we've seen is, for all the strides that the Titans have made, a big spot that they're going to have to look at, free agency, the draft, maybe all of the above in the offseason with John Robinson, is that secondary, specifically quarterback. They got to find some guys who can lock you down and make a play in the secondary. Right now, they don't have it. And that's a concern moving forward because other quarterbacks, like Matt Barkley was yesterday, will be good enough to take advantage of it. But I also look a little bit at yesterday's results as a kind of a function of the league. When you get the lead in the fourth quarter, when you're leading by 20 points, you're going to milk the clock. You're going to try to run clock and get out of there. You're not going to do anything risky. And so the Titans tried that. Unfortunately for them, they went 3 and out a couple times in a row. And so they didn't milk much clock. They couldn't win in short yardage situation for a change this year. They've been so good much of the season. But yesterday they didn't get it in a couple short yardage situations. They had to punt. And then your defense starts getting on the heels because you're trying to keep things in front of you. You don't want to give up the big play. And for the most part yesterday, the Titans really didn't give up the big play in the passing game. They just gave up plays, consistently, over and over and over again. And that's what killed them. Ultimately, did them in the game. But it was kind of that prevent defense, dime defense that you have when you have a lead. And the Titans aren't the only team to do this. That is consistent throughout football at all levels. When you have a lead of that size, the only thing that really, really, really kills you is giving up a bomb, giving up a huge chunk play or a touchdown that lets somebody get back into the game quicker. So you try to keep everything in front, even if you give up a few completions that way. Unfortunately for the Titans yesterday, there was too much time to do that completely. The Bears got going, and it became really sticky down the stretch. But to me, that's a function of having a big lead and the defenses that they played, and I think most NFL teams would have played in that situation, and just not having much talent. I don't think it's an effort issue. I think you could give that polygraph test that you're talking about to everybody in that locker room, and they would walk away and they would pass. They would pass saying, I played hard, all the way through into the second half. The other thing I've heard from several people is that this is an issue with the Titans, the second halves. On defense especially, I don't see that. I mean, a week ago in Indianapolis, they gave up 3 points in the second half to Andrew Luck and company. The week before against Green Bay, yeah, they gave up some points in the second half, but they gave up a bunch of points in the second quarter, kind of slowed it down in the third quarter against Green Bay, just one score allowed, and shut them out in the fourth quarter. It wasn't a bad performance in the second half. The San Diego game, after a really slow start, the defense played better. Not great, obviously, giving up 43 points, but they played better in the second half than they did in the first half. You know, I mean, several of these games, they have made adjustments to make the play in the second half. The only two games I can really think where they played well early and they built a big lead and then struggled a bit in the second half was the Jacksonville game, in which, man, I can't even remember what the score was in that game, but they were up by like 30 at the half. And, you know, they pretty much coasted in the second half, playing a lot of prevent defense. And sure, Blake Bortles put up a bunch of big numbers in that game, but that was never in doubt. And then yesterday was certainly in doubt. And it wasn't a good effort. It was a bad effort in the defensive secondary. But again, I don't think that's a trend. It's a second half thing. I don't think it's an effort thing. I think it's just they were playing prevent, maybe playing to prevent the lose kind of thing. And that oftentimes will come back and hurt you. But I think it was fine effort, just for the most part, not good enough players. Guys not making plays even when they're in position. Got to take a break. Our phone lines are open now, 737-7767. If you'd like to get in on the discussion tonight about the secondary, about the win, whatever you would like to do. We'll get to some highlights. We'll break down this one a little bit more. More Titans talk coming your way right after this break here on News Channel 5+.